Support WrestleTalk, home of Luke Owen, whatever WrestleTalk is, and whoever Luke Owen is. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
WWE SummerSlam 2019 has gone crazy. I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Welcome to the WrestleRamble Saturday Magazine edition, which is brought to you by Screenstalker, kind of. Screenstalker's, of course, our movie and video games channel. We love it ever so much. We have Melina playing Smash Bros on there this week.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. They were very distracted by the Nintendo.
Yes, that was a big distraction. You had an epic fail montage and review of Disney's Lion King remake.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like either the game or the movie.
One of my favourite things we've made in probably this year. And yesterday, me and Chopper Pequenell reviewed The Rock's new movie, Hobbs and Shaw, with Roman Reigns in. Do you wanna spoiler?
I heard that he doesn't do a great deal.
He doesn't have a single line.
And he was caught by the acting bug.
It's a non-verbal role. Ooh, he does that at least.
I actually read that The Rock didn't even know he was auditioning for the movie.
Oh, wow. So he got in on his own merit.
For those people crying nepotism. Apparently The Rock didn't even know.
Well, go over to Screenstalker, subscribe there, press the thumbs up button, watch our review of Hobbs and Shaw from yesterday, and all the other great videos that have gone up this week.
Because let's be honest, they're all great.
They're all
great
I'm
videos.
proud of them.
It has been a lot of fun.
Yes. But SummerSlam, it is somehow 8 days away.
Yeah, right?
It's an early SummerSlam.
Is it?
Yeah, I feel like SummerSlam is more mid-August.
Yeah, I suppose that sounds about right.
19th of August.
But
is
it's,
when
so
I feel
it's
like it
7
should
days
be.
early then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a more existential crisis I'm having of just time running away from me.
Yes, it doesn't feel like it's, next Sunday even.
You know why I might feel that way, though?
Why is that, Oliver Davis?
It's because WWE haven't really spoken about it.
Well, no, yeah, the Raw reunion was essentially a show where they didn't do any build for SummerSlam whatsoever. So now we're doing this sort of frantic build towards the show. And if all this news that's come out this week is anything to go by, next week is going to be full of crazy last-minute additions here. But, not just last-minute additions, major last-minute additions.
Huge stuff. And we're going to talk about why we think that is shortly. Let's just say the already announced matches so far.
Please.
Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. A match they actually made me interested in this week because that episode of Raw was so good, particularly that beatdown angle. Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship.
Yes, please, mate.
Again, they did great work this week building it up with that fantastic Randy Orton interview video package. Becky Lynch versus Natalya for the Raw Women's Championship. I think it'll be a fun match,
Yep.
but they haven't even announced the proper stipulation yet. That submission match tease will likely be confirmed on Monday.
Yes.
So that's the go-home show where you're confirming and revealing this big angle, really. Bayley versus Ember Moon. SmackDown Women's Championship.
Who took a clean pinfall loss this week.
Yeah, which is probably beneath the true women's main event, Trish Stratus versus Charlotte. That's a huge match.
Do you know what? I'm actually really stoked for that match as well.
It's a big marquee name match. Trish Stratus coming back, taking on Charlotte Flair. That's going to presumably shift some tickets.
Yeah.
But that was only set up on Tuesday.
Yes.
There was nothing before that, really.
I bet you it was meant to be done at Raw Reunion. I reckon it was supposed to be, yeah, but Trish couldn't be there for Instagram or something.
Then we've got Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon with an I Quit stipulation for Owens if he loses, which, in fairness, has been built up for at least 4 weeks.
Yeah, they've been
That's
doing a
good
really
one.
solid job on that.
Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Also, that has been set up for a couple of weeks now. It was before Raw Reunion, so this whole pay-per-view cycle, really. Good job on that.
I'm really, really excited for that match.
Oh, yeah. Plus, you can almost argue that match has been building, not that match, but The Fiend's in-ring debut.
Since WrestleMania, well, the day after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked.
So good job building there. And AJ Styles versus Ricochet for the United States title. Again, something they've been building this whole pay-per-view cycle, and they've turned AJ heel. He's got the OC faction. Good job there. So those 3 matches, well done. All the others, I'm now excited about them, but it's only really been this week that you've managed to do that. Now here come all the other reported matches?
Well, so one of these was announced this week, which was The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, when this feud started, Meltzer reported that match is not happening. It's going to be a TV feud, but it's not going to lead to a SummerSlam match. Then it got announced this week that it is a SummerSlam match, and Meltzer is calling it a red herring because this week it's actually going to be announced it's Dolph Ziggler versus Goldberg. That's the match that's going to be at SummerSlam. So we're having a returning Goldberg 6 days before the show actually happens.
That is it feels like, okay, usually I would say that's a panic move by WWE, but by all accounts, this has been in the works for a while.
Yes.
It's obviously off the back of Goldberg and Undertaker having that really disappointing last 4 minutes to their 5-minute match.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the first minute. I thought it was great. But maybe it's part of a different strategy now, where WWE don't really care about building most of their matches for the whole 4-week period. They want the most excitement, the most momentum for that last week.
The go-home show.
Yeah, so typically where the go-home show would be used to give a really enticing angle for a feud you've been building for ages, it looks now like, rather than that angle, it's just a match announcement.
Yes, which we're going to come onto on the next one as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to add here that I'm actually taking this with a pinch of salt on this one. I agree with what you're saying, that maybe this is just WWE are doing not panic booking, but it's by design panic booking to kind of like give you just a very short burst of like, oh my god, this match is happening, and now it's happening. But it just feels so late in the day to be announcing this, and I wonder if, because the word has gotten out, they're not going to do it now, and they'll just stick with Dolph and Miz. And that will be the direction they go in, which I wouldn't put past them. By the way, did you hear how Meltzer came about this story?
Tell it, because this plays into why I think it might not happen.
Okay. So Brian Alvarez, a couple of weeks ago, or last week, said that it's going to be Dolph versus Goldberg. But I don't think he said it on a show that Meltzer was on.
Plus, it was speculatively. It's because
speculative.
Dolph kept on mentioning Goldberg's name in promos.
And because Brian Alvarez said that, some websites misquoted Dave Meltzer as reporting it's going to be Goldberg versus Dolph at SummerSlam.
So Brian Alvarez speculates became Dave Meltzer reported.
And then, so a few websites reported that. And then Brad Shepard got on his high horse because he reported with his quote-unquote inside sources, massive air quotes, that it's going to be Dolph versus Miz. And he then got on his high horse to Dave Meltzer and said, haha, you're an effing idiot. Told you your report was wrong. And Dave was like, I never reported this.
Yeah.
But off the back of that, he then asked around and found out that, yeah, it is going to be Dolph versus Goldberg. And he was like, oh, well, actually, thank you for giving me the little tip-off. I wouldn't have asked otherwise.
Yeah, Meltzer apparently calls up his one of the people that in WWE that replies to him and said, oh, so what's going on with Goldberg? And they go, how do you know about Goldberg? Yeah. And he's like, I didn't know about Goldberg. Now I do. So that is why I think it also could be a rib on Meltzer.
That's what I'm thinking. It could just be a way, because WWE for the last 2 years have been on a real tirade. They've been essentially using Bischoff's podcast, not Bischoff, Pritchard's podcast, and essentially now Bischoff's podcast to badmouth Meltzer's reporting and try and make him look as wrong as possible. Like, that's essentially Pritchard's podcast. His only role is to try and downplay the reporting of Dave Meltzer.
Yeah. He's not right all the time,
Nope.
Dave Meltzer, but he's right most of the time and way more than anyone else.
Yes.
Give the man his credit. He's an absolute phenomenon of journalism.
I was going to say, even if he gets this one wrong, which I'm almost fully expecting he does, he did actually report the rest of the card correctly earlier than everyone else.
Including
Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. So apparently, the person who attacked Roman Reigns is Daniel Bryan. It's not Buddy Murphy, it's not Samoa Joe, it's not even Kayla Braxton. It was Roman Reigns.
No,
sorry.
It was
Hey.
Roman Reigns screwed Roman Reigns.
Sorry, it was Daniel Bryan who was the one who pushed the boxes over, and this is to tie into his big career-altering announcement. He's going to the heights he's never been to before, the actual top of the card, feuding with an actual star, and that's why he's not been saying anything. So that's apparently where the storyline is going. And to your point of this sort of like, not so much hot shots booking in sort of like this last week. Who attacked Roman Reigns, to me, feels like that should be a 4-week storyline, with then the big reveal of, it was me, Roman. And you have you play 4 weeks of investigative it'd be like if we did who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then the next week it was Rikishi.
Or the next week after John Cena gets fired, turns back up again.
Yeah, they would
This company has previous.
They would never do a thing like that. So yeah, I would have thought that Who Attacked Roman Reigns to be a longer standing storyline, but apparently we're just going to find out this week, and it was Daniel Bryan.
Yeah. So while a Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns match is actually very exciting, I don't want either guy to lose. Like, Roman should really still have a lot of momentum off his comeback from cancer, but it's kind of been flattened out. And Daniel Bryan has just been AWOL for about a month since losing the tag titles at Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
So he needs a win too. So just putting them together all of a sudden, I don't think is the... You just book yourself into a corner, you know?
Absolutely, it is unfortunate on that one. The other match that has already been announced that we didn't list previously was Aleister Black versus Sami Zayn. That was confirmed this week.
Was it confirmed, or did Sami just say, I challenge him?
WWE.com's list when I was looking at it earlier. You fill for time while I look.
Well, then the other ones that were reported, because at the moment there are no tag matches officially announced for the card, so obviously that's going to change. Meltzer said that the women's tag match is going to be the Iconics versus Fire and Desire versus the Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross.
Which totally makes sense because Alexa Bliss pinned Ember Moon on Tuesday, which should set them up for a tag title shot.
Yeah, and you'd expect Bliss and Cross to get those belts.
I was being sarcastic for podcast listeners. You couldn't see the face I put.
Drew Gulak versus Oney Lorcan to have a 205 Live Cruiserweight title match on there. Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander, which has been built.
You're absolutely right. Aleister Black versus Sami Zayn is not on WWE.com at the time of this recording.
Yeah, so I imagine it will be accepted on SmackDown on Tuesday. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ali for the Intercontinental title, which was set up on SmackDown this week with Ali getting a shock win. And then you've got 24/7 title skits in addition to that. And the men's tag matches.
Yes.
I reckon they might just schmoz those together, have the OC versus the New Day as a champion versus champion match.
Say that for SummerSlam when it's the one night of the year. No, sorry, SummerSlam.
Keep saying the wrong words.
What is wrong with you? It's because I haven't had lunch. I reckon that we're not going to get any tag title matches, with the exception of the women's one that might get added, although at the moment it's a WWE.com feud, so I don't know how really important that is. I don't think we're going to get a Raw tag title defense or a SmackDown tag title defense. They'll just be in the respective corners of their guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, hopefully not. Because without either men's tag matches and no 24/7 title skits, that is 15 matches right there.
But it is a 6-hour show. And I don't know if that's 6 hours not including the 2-hour pre-show.
So 4-hour main card, 2-hour pre-show.
Well, so it's either going to be, 4-hour main card and a 2-hour pre-show, or a 2-hour pre-show and a 6-hour main show, which is what WrestleMania was, right?
Yeah, and it was too long, WWE.
But they don't care. They don't care if it's too long.
Oh my God.
So we could be looking at an 8-hour show overall.
It's the biggest party of the summer where you just fall asleep because you drank too much beer and you're in the sun.
But do you know what? Why don't you join us? Because we're going to be live streaming the event, and maybe that'll be a way to kind of keep people going, although you will see us go into our lull.
Oh, yeah.
Because the WrestleMania stream did go into a real period where we just sort of stopped talking for a bit, didn't really say much.
Dead eyes.
Dead eyes staring at the screen, and everyone in the chat was like, God, guys, come on, say something. We're trying to watch you here. Oh, God, yeah. It was during the Roman Drew match.
Yeah, that saw me off, that did. Well, so join us on Sunday. We'll also be doing the NXT TakeOver on Saturday.
It'll be me and you as well, right? Because Laurie's away.
Dream team.
You're doing an NXT ramble for nerds and for marks.
Well, it's weird because usually that's my safe space. I'll wake up on the Sunday morning and I'll watch NXT TakeOver, just kick back and really enjoy it, not have to make any notes.
Yep.
This time I will. But should we get on with some mailbag questions?
If you want to submit a question to the mailbag, all you've got to do is become one of our awesome pledge hammers on Patreon at any dollar amount and leave it in the community section. Label it mailbag, otherwise I may miss it. And we have got so many questions that unfortunately, once again, Crap Gimmicks has been shelved. Don't worry, Dan. we're not phasing them out, nor Lewis, we're not phasing them out. So we've got too many mailbag questions.
Yeah.
There are currently 15 pages, A4 pages on our Google Doc of mailbag questions. So we're going to try and get through as many of them as we possibly can for the next 20 minutes.
Maybe we'll find another way to include crap gimmicks. Maybe that becomes a WrestleTalk news thing, and people can vote which one they like the most.
Maybe.
Yeah.
As this comes in from Nate's Drop Surname, who has suggested some names for our Wrestle Dog, if you want them.
WrestleTalk in theory.
It's our a theoretical Wrestle Dog that we're going to
Yes.
get. If you didn't see our SmackDown Ramble, I think it was on the SmackDown show, we're thinking about getting a Wrestle Dog for the studio, and that'll be fun.
Our very own Bruley.
Exactly.
From Queer Eye.
So the name suggestions are Bobby Leashley,
Good.
Xavier Woofs, Stone Cold Steve Paustin, The Man's best friend, Barky Lynch. I keep saying lunch when I say Becky
That's
Lynch.
not very good.
Barky Lunch?
Yeah.
Or Barky Lynch. Seth Growlins, The Rough Ivel.
That's good.
Yeah, and of course, The Wrestle Dog Experience.
Well, that's the winner. Experience. WrestleDog experience.
I like... I like Seth Growlins and The Rough Ivel.
Could have had the Paw Raiders.
Oh, there you go. The poor experience. David Psycho Sydney says, in regards to the introduction song for AEW's new TV show, I'm thinking TNT by AC/DC. Lyrics, because I'm TNT, I'm Dynamite. The show is on TNT, and it's likely going to have Dynamite in the title. TNT, and I'll win the fight with WWE. I'm a power load, watch me explode, referring to the action on screen. I think it's a perfect fit, especially how it builds at the beginning. Used to love the song on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 for the PS2. Plus, I think AC/DC is Vince or Triple H's favourite band, which is another shot from AEW.
I almost hope that it's an original song.
I want that as well, yeah.
Sung by Randy Newman.
You got a friend in me.
It's just a bunch of guys having a lovely time wrestling.
Is that what you want him to do, lovely time with the boys? Owen Newton says, is it me, or are there 3 or more 4 faction teams on the main roster at the moment? The Club, the Vortex, the New Day, the Revival. Okay, so it's not as many as I thought, but could WWE be heading to a traditional Survivor Series?
Or just a more faction-based way of telling stories, which I much prefer. Like, I love how you have these little gangs and groups. It was a huge part of the Attitude Era, huge part of Japanese wrestling and the way they tell their stories. So I hope so. I think it does seem to be going that way, especially the end into this week's Raw, where Samoa Joe was aligned with the OC, and you had, who was it? The Usos with Roman just hanging about. So yeah, I really hope so.
I think we're going to have, I've been saying this prediction for a while, Team Roman versus Team Shane, or actually maybe now it'll be Team Owens versus Team Shane, with the stipulation that Shane is gone forever if his team loses. You get Owens and Roman and probably the New Day versus Drew and Joe and whatever, who else is in the Vortex. Brad Lloyd says, hi guys, recently I've been rewatching Raw from 1998 and it made me wonder something. Would Stone Cold be booed by the crowd if he was in today's product? Hear me out. At almost the end of every Stone Cold match, he comes out and stuns the participants, and every show is built around him. So do you think today's smarky environment, he would be booed for being the company boy and shoved down our throats?
It's an interesting one. When me and Luke do the WrestleRamble Extra podcasts where we review old pay-per-views, and it's generally from the Attitude Era, it is quite creatively stifling how many times there'll be this great match between Kurt Angle. You know, the Armageddon is a classic example of this. 6-man Hell in a Cell match. Everyone kills each other. Rikishi takes, the push.
Yeah, the force push off the
force
cell.
push. And Kurt Angle is bleeding a gusher. There's this wonderful image of just everyone exhausted in the middle of the ring. Austin's music hits, walks down, stunners a few people. He stands tall.
Now, well, Austin was in the match.
Oh, yeah.
It's Kurt Angle wins, but Stone Cold is the one that stands tall at the end. My favourite example of it is Survivor Series 1998, where the main event was The Rock versus Mankind, and Rock wins the title, but Stone Cold Steve Austin stands tall at the end of the show.
Yeah. I don't know if we would have booed him, though.
No, the reason why we didn't, and the reason why we wouldn't, is because we liked him.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have booed Roman being quote unquote shoved down our throats because we liked him. Becky Lynch was effectively shoved down our throats when she was going through her WrestleMania push. We weren't booing her because we liked her.
Yeah, like if it was CM Punk being pushed at the top genuinely, I don't think anyone would have turned on him.
Daniel Bryan in the Yes-O-Mania.
Exactly.
He was shoved.
Yeah.
He was all over the shows, but we didn't because we liked Daniel Bryan.
You might go like, oh god, I wish they would let someone else stand tall at the end of a show for once, because that's a genuine critical element of the Attitude Era. But then you'd just watch Austin cut a promo, and you'd be like, oh god damn it, he's amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you want an update on the WrestleRamble Extra August poll?
Chat me up.
So the poll for WrestleRamble Extra August is now live. As you'd imagine, it's quite SummerSlam heavy. However, it is not.
Phil Stopford.
It is not a SummerSlam. Well, Stopford suggested one. He suggested SummerSlam 02.
Oh, okay.
Which has got 11% of the vote currently. 2005 has got 14% of the vote, which is... I need to remind myself which match that was now.
Yeah, because I know...
that's Michaels Hogan.
Of course, we can talk about the selling.
Yes, but currently in the lead, it's NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1 with Sasha Banks versus Bayley.
That'll be a fun show to rewatch.
Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens in a ladder match main event.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun times. So yeah, that's currently in the lead. So head on over to Patreon if you want to get involved with that.
That was really the start of the NXT.
That's what I said in my description, yeah. Do you know that it also features Samoa Joe's debut? Yeah. Tattoo Coopman says, after hearing that AEW very much want to do a video game in the future, what wrestling game would you like it to be? I'd be keen for an updated version of N64's No Mercy. Honestly, I'd probably still play that game even if they updated the roster. But you can do that because there are modded versions of No Mercy readily available with today's product that you can easily download. In fact, not even just today's WWE product, all wrestling products. You can get an Impact one or a New Japan version. Probably an AEW version already exists out there. But I would imagine it will be in the style of No Mercy, because the Young Bucks, if anything, are very nostalgic for that game and that period. When they were talking about doing action figures, they wanted to sign it with LJN because they used to do action figures in the day. So they want to have old style wrestling figures. No, these were the Hasbro ones.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they want to have old school style merchandise that reminds them of their youth, because they're nostalgic.
What's the WCW one where it's all in the backstage
That was
area?
a Backstage Assault.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be like that.
Yeah, built on the same engine. I'm also going to correct myself. I'm not sure if it was Samoa Joe's debut. He might have debuted at a different show. But I just want to put that out there because if I got it wrong, someone will point out to me. Stu Sizer... in my honest, Bret Hart really was the best there is and was in WWE. In fact, my dream match would be Bret versus Bryan in a submission match. Both technical geniuses in the ring and would like to have a 5-star match by anyone's standards. Who would you say was the best ever in WWE, and what would the dream match be for them?
Kurt Angle versus Daniel Bryan.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan.
Different kinds of matches we've gone for there. Mine would be a technical masterpiece.
Yep.
Yours would be star
Spectacle.
power. Box office.
Exactly, box office draw, pal.
Both good answers.
Chris Thorne, is Seth doing the exact same thing that Roman was doing when he was made the top guy? Obviously referring to Seth Rollins' quote-unquote brilliant use of Twitter. I wasn't watching at the time, but discussions on Reddit are making me feel that way. I've lately found myself going from a huge Rollins mark to wanting someone else to beat him for the title. So we'll answer that question first, then he's got a follow-up question.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that Seth, and maybe he is a good guy and he's just feeling a lot of pressure working in WWE and he feels like he has to defend his company because, that's his work. But he has come across awfully on Twitter. And sometimes it just takes a few stupid comments. God knows I've had a few.
Oh, yeah.
For you to suddenly go, you know what, I don't know if I like you as much as I used to. Not like they hate Seth Rollins or anything, but a bit of the shine's taken off.
Yes.
Because before then, in my mind, he was always Seth Rollins. He's amazing everywhere. That gauntlet match, yeah. But now it's like,
Yeah. And it was really funny as well because his whole thing was just like, no one works harder than me, no one does this more than me, and he's not even like the top 5 people who's had. Baron Corbin's had more matches than Seth Rollins does, so apparently Seth Rollins does it more than he does. Baron Corbin, whatever. I'm doing bad for talking today. His follow-up question is, what are your guys' preferences in music? I never seem to hear about your favourite bands, artists or genres since it's not brought up. I tend to love hip-hop, but Ed Sheeran's latest album is my favourite of all music albums. I feel like we talk about music a lot in the NXT reviews because everyone in NXT wears band t-shirts of bands that I like, so they instantly become my favourite. Shayna Baszler was wearing a Slayer t-shirt this week, so she's my new favourite wrestler of all time. Killian Day made his return wearing a Tool t-shirt, so he became my favourite wrestler that week. But do you want to answer, what are your musical tastes?
I would, probably sort of experimental indie. I don't really know what the genre is, but anything that groups Arcade Fire and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and what's in there? Everything is a more current version of these bands,
Yep.
that would be my go-to music.
Yeah.
Or Taylor Swift.
Obviously, yeah. We have a group on WhatsApp where we're recommending each other albums, and each person has to choose a new album every week. And I just want to point out that you made it a competition because you wanted everyone to like your choice. And I was like, dude, it's not a competition. But if it was, I would definitely be winning because everyone's loved the album that I picked this week.
I don't hate it. It's no front bottoms. Listen to the front bottoms, everyone. Talon of the Hawk.
No, everyone should listen to Rush's Moving Pictures because that's the album that everyone likes that I chose. The Dizziest Bloke Going today said, should pay-per-views be cut down to one every 2 months so feud storylines can fully develop to a better conclusion?
No. No, I like the once-a-month progression. We just had that. We just had that with the brand-specific
split, yeah,
pay-per-views.
and it didn't work out.
We just need to cut the length of the pay-per-views down and put some of those matches that aren't good enough to be on the pay-per-view onto the go-home shows.
There it is. Dear Ollie, Luke, this comes in from Abnahav. Dear Ollie, Luke, Laurie, Pete, SoCal Val, Simon, and name redacted. I always have an issue with the reunion shows, and after watching Raw Review, I felt I had the same one. All these shows are meant to be feel-good shows, and hence in majority segments, a face character is put over and a heel is shown to look like a chump. This time, Rey Mysterio was the face, whereas Sami Zayn was the heel. Why can't these shows ever put over a heel? Imagine all the baddies from the past era help the heel to win. In the Mysterio-Zayn match, instead of RVD, Angle, Hurricane, and Slaughter, the NWO came out to help Sami. It would make sense, and it would help elevate Sami. The NWO would get a nice pop, and it would be better than the DX segment. What do you guys think? Lots of love. Laurie's #1 fan, Abhinav. Or Abhinav.
Yeah, I guess you don't usually get legend heels helping out current day heels.
Yeah.
Because I suppose there's an argument that most legends, it's very hard to book them as heels because people just want to cheer them.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, like there
can't
came
book
a
them
point
as
in their
heels now.
career where people are going to cheer no matter what. $1 Million Man is different because that's just his character, but people only mock dislike
But
him.
even then, he's going to get a babyface pop when he
Exactly.
comes out because he's got the legend. Vince Russo, God bless his heart, was determined to make Sting a heel in TNA. He's just desperate to make Sting a heel, but it's like, no one's booing Sting in 2011,
Yeah.
mate. It's not happening.
But in terms of these special shows not putting over heels, one of the best examples of a nostalgia show to get over the actual current day stars, Raw 1000, was all built around getting over CM Punk as a heel.
Yeah.
He turned heel on The Rock.
Yeah.
So that's I don't take your point.
Reese says, Dear Ollie, Luke, Laurie, Pete, Simon, other Office Space users, the gosh darn Blake Ham.
God damn it, Blake Ham.
The messy child in the corner who can't work a microphone. Something I've been thinking of for a while, but the SmackDown review brought it to the front of my mind. To you fellas, is there anything that can be done to save the character of Dolph Ziggler? I've noticed it's gotten so bad that you are no longer wishing to see him go anywhere, even like ROH or AEW, instead of wishing him to go away for good. Personally, I feel that maybe, and I can't stress that enough how much of a maybe this is, a 20 to 30 minute match with HBK with Ziggler going over could save him, but only if they keep that momentum up. I know that Ollie has his heart set on AJ versus HBK, but I feel like that was meant for Triple H. Oh, that line was meant for Triple H.
I see that could
Either
be
way,
true.
I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, do you think that Dolph could be turned around in the audience eyes with the 20-30 minute HBK match?
Yeah, maybe. That's the problem. I can't, usually when these guys are underused and mistreated and badly booked on the main roster, you've got about 20 ideas of how to turn it around. Like, oh, you could do this. It's easy. But it's been going on so long with Ziggler that I've steadily been exhausted of ideas, and I can't invest in him anymore, which is a real shame. Because I said before, I was a huge Dolph Ziggler fan.
It's 10 years too late, or even 5 years too late. The guy who wants to support says, hello, Screen Stalker, WrestleTalk crew, and Blake Crap, you piece of ham. Who is your favorite independent wrestler at the moment, not counting any NXT UK wrestlers? For me, it's none other than the independent himself, David Starr.
Cara Noir.
Cara Noir, what a great shout.
Cara Noir, fantastic entrance. Really solid in-ring wrestler from
so
what I've
good,
seen.
yeah.
He's just got a presence about him.
And speaking of Cara Noir, I'm going to say Pac. I'm gonna go
Yeah, okay.
Only because his Riptide match, it just made me think of the Riptide match that Pac had with Cara Noir, which was one of my favourite matches of this year. It was absolutely stunning. Big mark for David Starr as well. Big fan of him. James Huntley said, WWE has suffered with live event attendance for the past number of months. Here in Canada, they are advertising Corbin and Evans in a mixed tag versus Seth and Becky in late September, 6 months after the feud started. I understand that card is subject to change, but they are still advertising these boring and way overplayed matches. Do you think the low attendance is because of what they advertise as the main events and the matches for the event, or is there another underlying issue that could be the reason?
I think most people buy tickets to WWE shows because it's a WWE show.
Correct. That's what WWE wants.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what WWE have created when it really should be about, I want to see this star, I want to see this star. So, I mean, they'll change that.
100%.
That will just be when they first put the matches on, the show on sale, that was the big feud at the moment, and then they'll update it close to the time to get another influx of tickets.
Yeah, I'm still baffled there. I still, on a weekly basis, someone will send me something saying, hey, this was advertised in my local area. Is it a spoiler for X pay-per-view? And I'm like, no, it's just, that's the feud that's at the moment. It's just card subject to change.
Well, there was 2017 and 2018, there was at least 3 or 4 stories where stuff like that came out to be true.
Yeah, but I'm talking more like advertising Seth versus Baron Corbin.
Oh, yeah.
Those sorts of matches. Kenneth Houston says, for example, Bryan versus Roman is being advertised for house shows after SummerSlam, which could fuel those fires that it is Bryan versus Roman at SummerSlam. Kenneth Houston said, I just had a master of a thought. If they make it an I Quit match, the Owens clip of him saying I quit, what if the mastermind is to Mankind, Kevin Owens, the same way they did with Foley in the I Quit match with The Rock? They play the clip for Shane in the match at SummerSlam so he can win, leading to a 5-on-5 at Survivor Series. That only works if it is booked to be an I Quit match, because if it's not an I Quit match, then it's a straight singles match with the stipulation that he quits if he loses.
Yeah, because at the moment it's just you're right. I don't think that's the right choice either, because Kevin Owens has got some momentum right now, and you want to just give him wins. You don't want to have these contrived storylines. The heel keeps on. He needs a big win, and then he can get onto an actual program with an actual wrestler.
I'm going to disagree. I think it's a great idea, and I think they should do it.
Whoa!
But, I don't think you can have to keep Kevin off TV. I mean, John Cena never stayed off TV when he was fired, so you just have him coming out. And it's more badass for Owens to come in and attack Shane. You get more gloating Shane to lead to that Survivor Series, where it is, if I win, I'm reinstated, and if you lose, you're gone forever.
I guess in my head that just means Shane versus Owens is going to continue.
But it's got Survivor Series down the road, mate. He's the star. Talking to Shane, obviously. Gigi Baxter says, I've always thought that after losing to Taker at Mania, Bray Wyatt should have retired him at Survivor Series, and in so bringing Taker's career full circle. Many years later, do you think that's the route they should have gone down? Beat the Demon, retire the Dead Man, or is there any way else you could have seen Bray face off against?
I think if you're going to do that story, I think Bray should have won
eventually
at WrestleMania.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then that's Undertaker's last match if you're going to stick to it. Because of all the people that Undertaker could have put over to really cement in that top echelon, I think Punk and Bray were the last two.
Yeah, it really was.
Then all the others just didn't really work for me. I mean, Brock was already a star. I get the argument that really...
So was Roman.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think if they were going to beat Bray at WrestleMania, then he should have won at a later date. So they should have had a return match where Bray could have had a win and Taker put him over. Jonathan Hewling says, would you like to see WWE go back to their gang warfare philosophy they had in the late 90s? If so, what 2 factions would you like to see form that aren't already in existence? So not including the OC or the Undisputed Era.
Well, yes. I always say I want factions.
You always go for that.
2 factions that aren't already in existence.
But then you're just lumping people together, and I'd like to have a reason for them being together.
Well, some people could fit. So maybe there's a Sammy, Kevin, and who's another former Ring of Honor guy on the main roster? Yeah, like a Chris Hero, Cesaro, Sammy, and Kevin.
Yeah, the real kings of wrestling.
Yeah, but I don't want to get a League of Nations vibe with anyone. Have you got any ideas?
I haven't, no, because as I said, you just sort of end up kind of grouping people together, and I'd like there to be some sort of storyline reason for it, in which case we're getting into fantasy booking warfare territory, and if we're going to do that, I'd like to be able to sit down. Okay, who's not on the main roster? Imperium. And British Strong Style.
Yeah. Also, the sort of, not Latino World Order, don't call them that, but a Mexican contingent, I think would be really good because, unfortunately, a lot of them are floundering.
Yeah.
It would give them something to do.
Yeah, do you want to do one more?
Yes.
Lendl Branson says, the recent WrestleRamble Extra podcast reminded me of a question I've wanted to ask you guys for quite some time. How much of an impact do you believe Triple H's injury in 2001 had on the Invasion storyline, particularly Kurt Angle's push? Considering that Austin and Triple H at the time of Hunter's injury were the top heels and Angle just replaced them as a top heel and later a top babyface. Do you believe it would have just been Triple H and Austin feuding during the summer of 2001? And if so, do you think they would have placed Angle? I guess the same question could be asked of Chris Benoit, since he and Jericho were the top babyface at the time of Benoit's injury. Sorry for the long mailbag. Would just like to know your respected opinions.
Yeah, I think that was obviously the plan. But
I'm
also...
going to disagree on that as the plan.
Well, I was going to say... Well, Hunter... So that was when Hunter and Austin were the two-man power trip.
Oh, yeah, which was to set up Triple H as the big babyface.
Yeah. But then Hunter got injured, and that's when they got behind Kurt as the big leader.
Because they needed a new babyface to go against Austin.
Yeah.
Because Austin going against Benoit, Jericho, Taker, and Kane had not worked with Austin as their heel. So yeah, it already would have really impacted. It would have been Triple H probably in the position of Kurt Angle.
Yeah, and that's weird because whenever I think of Triple H as a wrestler, he's a heel in my head because he never really had that proper definitive babyface run.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's missing from his career. But he's one of those guys that's always a heel. I don't think I would have accepted it in my head. Like Ric Flair is always a heel.
Yeah.
And that's who he models himself on, really.
I wonder if they would have probably either stuck to their guns and gone with Triple H versus Austin at SummerSlam, or whether they'd have had Triple H also go with the alliance and then built it into a babyface turn later down the line. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. It's certainly interesting. Although Triple H in his book does say that he wasn't expecting to get a big babyface reaction when he came back in 2002, despite the fact all the videos in the lead up to him were positioning him as a big babyface making a big return. Oh, I had no idea that was going to happen. Get out, mate. Absolute balderdash.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Please go and check out Screenstalker, in particular mine and Pete. I tried to say Hobbs and Pete at the same time. Particularly mine and Chopper Beakwell's review of Hobbs and Shaw, the movie starring Roman Reigns and The Rock, and a bunch of quite exciting surprise cameos.
Oh, really?
You don't even know about them.
Also, I don't care.
There's one that you would hate, and there's one that I think you would also hate.
Amazing.
So go over there, click the link in the video description below to check that out, and press the videos on the screen now that have just appeared to catch up with the latest awesome WrestleTalk stuff, and this button here, which will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon, where you can submit your questions too. I've been Ollie Davis, this has been Luke Owen, and that was Rambling.